Okay, my friends, I am back with our final video tutorial for As You Grow from March. And this is layout 5. This is the Cricut-based layout. And I'm going to start with the left page. So I'm just going to move that one out of the way. All right. And so what I want to talk to you about is cutting these triangles, doodling on the around this. I know I talked about doodling in that before, but I'm just going to say a couple words about this, and then I'm going to just walk you through assembling the layers of all of these embellishments. Okay, so to start with, I need a square piece of paper. Okay, so just imagine on this side so you can see better that this is a 12 by 12 sheet of paper. Okay, and you're going to need your 18-inch ruler. That's really, really important. All right, 18 inches. And you want to turn it over to the back. Okay, and when I'm using my ruler on the patterned paper, I like to turn my ruler over, if the metal ruler. Okay, my plastic ruler, I don't bother with that because there is no backing, but this cork backing on the ruler, sometimes I feel like it makes it not quite straight. Okay, so I'm just lining this up from corner to corner. Sorry, I just got to grab my pencil. Okay, and let's move this just a little closer. All right, so you can see I've got this lined up from that corner to that corner. All right, and that's exactly what you'll do on your 12 by 12 piece with your 18-inch ruler. It has to be an 18. A 12-inch ruler is not big enough. Okay, and then you're just going to draw a line lightly. Okay, and the only reason you're worried about lightly is because if you want to use the other half for something else, you want to be able to erase the pencil, plus completely erase the pencil. Plus, if you press hard, it will leave an indent on the other side. Okay, and then you're going to grab your long blade scissors, and starting at the one corner, you're going to follow that line. Now remember, with your long blade scissors, okay, you always want to look at where you're going, not where you've been, and you never want to actually close the scissors. Okay, so you get near the end and you just open them up again, slide them along, and keep cutting that way. As long as you don't close the scissors, you'll get a nice smooth cut. Okay, and I'm always watching ahead to see where I'm going with the scissors to make sure it stays nice and straight. All right, so that gives you two pieces that will fit into your trimmer now. All right, and so then the next thing, okay, just a minute, let me think about this. No, that's it, stop. For this one, we're using a half a sheet for each piece. All right, let me bring this back in. All right, so this is, just let me think here. Yes, this is, okay. So this will be, oh man, now I can't remember. That seems a bit small for a whole sheet. I'm trying to remember now if I cut these again. Okay, I can't remember exactly if I cut these again or not. Okay, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to show you how I did the cut again, because I have a feeling I did. Okay, I cut twice, but after you've cut your piece of paper in half, sorry, it's just this is what happens when I have a long space of time between when I actually create the layout and when I do the video tutorial. Okay, so after you've cut your piece of 12 by 12 paper in half, okay, just measure it and see. It should fit from that side to that side of your base page, which is White Daisy. Okay. All right, and then you can see that I've used one of the sage background icon pieces, okay, one of the floral pieces, one of the harbor backed pieces with the leaves, and then one of the mulberry pieces with the dots. And I believe this one is also that one. Just let me double check. No edges showing here. Okay. No, I'm wrong. The other side of this one is the stars. Okay, oh, this is the one. This one and this one are the same paper. Okay, so you're going to use two pieces of this, just one is flipped over. Okay, and then the back of this one. I really glued that one tight. You should do that. The other side of this, yes, the other side of this one is the mint background. Okay, it's a similar set of icons, but the background is mint. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you once you have this cut like this, if you need to cut it again, now you can use your trimmer. So you're going to bring your trimmer in. I just want to show you the top. Okay, so what I'm doing here, now I want to show you the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to butt the long side up against the bottom guide so that I know it's straight. And then I'm going to slide the triangle over until it's at the groove where I do the cutting. Okay, let's see if I can bring that in. So you can see exactly what I'm doing here. Okay, now I'm going to move the trimmer or the blade itself out of the way. Okay, so that I can move this again a little more. I want the point right there to come up exactly on the edge of where I'm going to be trimming. Okay, and then I cut. All right, so now I have again two identical triangles. Okay, now I have a feeling this is how I cut these, but I can't be absolutely sure. I don't think I said. Just a minute here, let me grab my cutting guide because I don't want to give you the wrong information. Let me look. I did, yes. Okay, so on the cut guide, you can see here, this is the piece right here. Okay, and right here. Okay, so right here. So I use my ruler first to draw this line. So that's an 18-inch ruler. Okay, then I cut that. Okay, then I cut again in half here on the trimmer. So this piece I'm using on layout 5. And this piece here, oh, sorry, this is the top. All right, so I turned it around. And so just so that you can get your images going in the right direction. All right, so this is the flower piece and I wanted it to go in this direction. Okay, and then this one is the leaves, which didn't matter because they go in every direction. All right, so that's clear as mud. I hope if you have any questions, if you have any trouble with that cutting, please stop and just let me know and I will help you out with that. Okay, so now way again. Talk about, just gonna bring these in. Okay. So I talked about doodling a little bit in your last video tutorial and tutorial number 4. Okay, now here I have my 0.05 journaling pens. I've got the pewter and I've got the black. Okay, now if you don't want it to be as in your face as the black is, you can use the pewter. And how I did my doodling was I just followed the curve of each of the scallops. Okay, this is not going to be exact. All right, then once I finished that, going all the way around, then I doodled again. And this time I want it to be more of a wavy line over top. Now, if you don't like that kind of doodling, you can do the, as we showed you, you can do the dotted line if you want, if you'd rather, just following it around. That, or you can do an alternate one, dot, line, dot, line, however you want to do it, or no doodling at all. Like you could, if you'd rather, you can ink the edges of this. All right. Or you can just leave it plain because it is on a fairly dark colored background. All right. So it's entirely up to you how you do it, but those are just a few options. Okay. So that's that one. Now when I talk about these flowers, you've got quite a few of these flowers to put together. And what you can do, you need to have one layer dark and one layer light. All right, so now I've got it turned this way. So I've got the dark layer on the top, the light layer on the back. Or you can flip the whole thing over and then you can put the dark layer on the back and the light layer on the top. All right, it doesn't matter which way you do it. You suit yourself. You can do an assortment of each of them. And then when you've decided, you're just going to flip it over, use your liquid glue, and just add a little bit here and there. Okay, you see I'm not really squeezing. I squeeze at the beginning just to get a bit of glue started. Oh, and I didn't put my mat down. And then I just match these together. Okay, and oops, I've done a terrible job of matching there. Okay, that's better. Okay, and I noticed I got some glue where I don't want it. So I'm going to just dab hard. You have to do it fairly hard. Okay, and I just want to make sure I'm absorbing all that extra glue. I don't want showing. Okay, and then once I'm done that, okay, I'm going to grab my center. Now, these are not a perfect fit. They are not meant to be a perfect fit. Okay, and I'm just putting that in the center. Okay, and that's it. All done. Every flower is the same of this type. Okay, so now moving on to this flower. Okay, I assembled this in two separate pieces. Okay, so you should have 3 of the smaller ones. 2 of them will be in white daisy and 1 will be in linen. Then there's 2 of the larger sets of petals, and 1 is in linen and 1 is in white daisy. All right, so I'm going to start with the bigger ones. I'm going to add, I'm working with the light side on the top. Okay, and I'm just going to add a little bit of glue right into the center here. Okay, see that? Okay, and then I'm going to offset the petals just a little bit, trying to keep it somewhat in the center. I'm very bad at that. Okay, my flowers tend to turn out lopsided because I don't get them centered very well. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. These are the same size. Okay, so I'm going to layer it with the light side up on the linen, and then I'm going to have a white daisy, then a linen, and then a white daisy again. All right, and I put the linen in there just to give the flower a little bit more depth. Okay, so I'll start at the bottom, work my way up, and I'm going to offset that somewhat and get it centered. A little bit more glue, okay, and then offset again. That's it. Okay, now at this point, you can either use liquid glue to put the small group with the big group, or you can use some thin foam tape. So let me grab mine. Okay, so this is the thin. All right, and I'm just going to grab my small scissors. And I'm taking this one piece and adding it right there. Right in the center. Okay, and then I couldn't find my bright yellow centerpiece, so I'm using this one that I found, just because I didn't want to have to go cut off one little circle out. Okay, and that's going right in the middle. Okay, So once I've got this flower all together, you can see there's a little bit of depth there with your foam tape. And then you can take these leaves, okay, and you want to go all the way around. And you want to just lift the petals, the individual petals of all the layers. Just like that. Now, if you want, you could leave the bottom layer if you wanted. But I'm going to lift them, bend them, or fold them a little up as well. Now, you know when you put this into the page protector that it's going to flatten out somewhat, but it will still have some nice dimension to it. This is the part where I think these flowers really just come alive. It's when you start adding a little bit of shape to them. Now you could shape these before you attach everything together with a flower shaper, but for this daisy type of flower, I like them straight. I like the way they look straight rather than shaping with the flower shaper. Okay, so there you go. There's that flower all done. Very pretty. I really like the way these turned out. Okay, so that's that flower. Now you've got two types of leaves here. We've actually got three, but one is not a layer. It's just one piece. So I didn't worry about that one. That's the one that looks sort of like a fern. Okay, now again, like I was talking to you about the flower here. Okay, this flower. You can decide how you want this to go. So for this one, I've got the dark side of this green. I can't remember what color that is. I think that's New England ivy. And then I've got the dark side up on the rosemary. Okay, and I'm going to just put it together like that. Okay. Just a little bit of glue. So you see, once I squeeze the tube and I get some glue on the end, I don't squeeze anymore. Okay. I'm just going to hold this down till I know the glue is attached. Okay, and that one is done. This is with the dark side of both. Okay, now for this one, you could, if you wanted to, just switch that around. Okay, so I've got the light side of the rosemary showing now, and I've got the light side. Oh, I guess I can't. I was going to say the light side of the New England ivy, but I can't, just because of the shapes of them. All right, and so now we've got the light side of the shade of the rosemary in the back. Now, if you wanted, you could switch that around, and you could have the dark side of the rosemary and the light side of the New England ivy. Just like that. To me, it was more effective this way. I guess that's why I picked that way. Just like that. Okay, so I'm going to glue that together. Give my bottle a little squeeze, get the glue started. And I'm just putting a little dab of Luia on each leaf. And I'm starting at the top, and I'm just fitting each one of those down. Okay, there we go. Now again, you'll notice that there's just a little bit hanging over here. I don't know what is up with that these days, but if you don't like that showing, just trim it off the way I showed you before. Okay, and that is that. So there you've got your four main pieces. Okay, plus, just hang on a minute. The other one you have is this fern, okay, which was not a layer. All right, so you can alternate those. You can have them. I designed them, I cut them, not designed them, so that the dark layer was up. But if you want to turn that over and have the light layer, you can do that. Right. Okay, so that is the left side of layout 5. I'm going to pause for a moment just to set up for the right side. Okay, I am back with the right side of layout 5. And on this side, I want to talk to you about this title. I want to talk to you about the gold embellishing thread. And I want to talk to you about these triangles that I added. We've already talked about the flowers and the leaves. They're exactly the same as from the left side. Okay, so before you attach your white piece to your sangria page, your sangria base page, okay, this is what comes in your kit. And you can see the triangles are already cut for you on the Cricut. Okay, and I used mine in this direction, but it doesn't really matter which way you want to put it. It's up to you. Do it whichever way you like. Okay, you can do it that way, that way, that way. You can turn it over if you want. Do it that way. Like, it's entirely up to you. Okay, however, for me, I used it this way. Okay, so you want to grab your Harbor shimmer brush and you want to splatter generously. Okay, nice and generously. Okay, and then once that dries, doesn't take long, you're just going to grab your adhesive and you're going to attach it to your sangria base like that. It's going to be centered all the way around. You've got 1/4 of an inch all the way around. Okay, now what I want to talk to you next about, okay, are these triangles. Okay, so you're going to grab some scraps that you have left over. Okay, I've got 3 different ones. These 2 are squares. This one is not, it's a rectangle. Okay, so here is how I created those squares. I've got my ruler, I've got my long bladed scissors, I've got my pencil. And what I did was I figured out which side I wanted as my base. On the squares, it doesn't matter because all the sides are the same. Okay, I just measured, turn it, let's see, this way. So I can measure all the way across. Okay, so this square is 3 1/4. So I need half of that. So half of 3 is 1 1/2, and half of 1/4 is 1/8. So I need 1 5/8. So on the top, I'm going to mark where 1 5/8 is, right there. Okay, and that's the middle. I'll show you where I made that little mark. Okay, right there. 1 5/8 is the middle of this square. So then I'm going to grab my ruler and I'm going to go from that mark I made to the outside corner. I'm going to draw a line. And then I'm going to do the same thing from the other side. Let's turn this around a little. Okay, and I'm going to go from the mark again to the outside corner. All right, and there's my triangle. So all I have to do is, using my long blade scissors, just like I showed you with the last cutting for the background, okay, is I'm just following my line along the pencil mark. There you go. There's your triangle. Okay, and you can use either side. It doesn't matter which side, you just decide for yourself. Okay, so that's how the squares go. I'll do one more. This one is a little bit different size. Okay, this one is 3 3/4. Okay, so half of 3 is 1 1/2, and then I've got 3/4, so that would be 1 1/4 and 1/8. Okay, you can divide it however works for you. That's just how it works best for me. So I need to mark at the half point, which is 1 and 7/8. Okay, so 1 7/8 is right there. All right, there's my mark. Hopefully you can see that right there. Okay, and then I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to go from my mark out to the corner on the opposite side. Now these do not have to be exact. Really just do your best. Okay, I'm going from the mark again to the opposite corner. So the important thing to remember about all of this is that the smaller the square, the smaller the triangle. So you just decide how big you want your triangles and go from there. Okay, so there's your triangle. And you can use either side, doesn't matter. Okay, so the last one I want to show you is from the two squares. Okay, is this rectangular piece. All right, so now I want to use this to make my triangle, and I have to decide, do I want the long side to be the base or do I want the short side to be the base? And if you look at the finished layout, okay, most of these had the narrower base. All right, and they were long or tall going one way and then a shorter base. So I'm going to use the shorter base here, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to measure across. Okay, and I don't like that measurement. So I want it to be 3 inches, because 3 1/8 is too hard to cut in half. So I'm just going to trim that down to 3. Measuring easier. Okay. So half of 3 is 1 1/2. So I'm going to mark 1 1/2 across from one end, just like that. So there's my mark right there. And then I'm going to do exactly the same thing I did before. I'm going to go from the mark to the opposite corner. And then turn and do the same thing on the other side, from the mark to the opposite corner. Grabbing my long blade scissors, I'm just going to work my way down these drawn lines, not the cut lines. Cut on the drawn line. Okay, now I just want to point out to you, I hope you can see that my lines, okay, are showing a little bit. So that means I didn't cut it perfectly, but you know what? Doesn't matter. If you want to use that side, just erase that line because you only drew it very lightly, or turn it over and use the other side. Okay, so you can see the difference here, I hope. This triangle is much taller than it is wide. Okay, these two triangles are equilateral triangles, because we cut them from square pieces. This one came from a rectangular piece. Okay, so I'm just going to count here because I didn't do that beforehand. I added 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 triangles. Okay, and I put them, some are facing up, some are facing down. You decide. All right. Oh, and I just noticed one little thing. You see right here, that's a teeny tiny triangle. Just peeking out. Okay, so that's triangles. Now, one thing I wanted to point out to you about the title, this is pretty straightforward, is that Enjoy is in 2 pieces. All right, so EN is one piece, JOY is another piece. I glued these directly onto the base. You can pop them up if you want. Today is 2 pieces as well. The T is one piece and ODAY is the other piece. Now for this one, I popped up the T because I wanted to put some of the gold thread behind. Then I also added a loopy of gold thread here, and I added a loopy of gold thread here. All right, so this is how I did it. Now you can get your adhesive all ready to go on the back of your photo mat and on the back of your tee, and just wait. You want to just sort of dry fit it so you know where your burst of thread is going to go. Okay, so I'm just untangling a bit of this. Okay, now I just want to show you this. You can see how kinky it is, I hope. There. Okay, if you use your thumb and your pointer finger and put them together around the thread so that your thumbnail is laying on the thread and lightly pull through, okay, that helps to get rid of the kinks. Okay, so I'm just going to cut that piece off. I'm going to finish taking the kinks out here. Just move my hand along. Okay, so now the thread is fairly straight. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the end of the thread, which is coming apart a little, and that's okay. Okay, and I'm going to grab it between my thumb and my pointer finger on my left hand. This is my non-dominant hand, okay, in case you're left-handed. Okay, and then I'm just going to start rolling this over. And I'm just going to, every time I roll it, I'm going to grab it with my thumb and my finger, okay, till we come to the end. Okay, I'm going to leave that piece out because it's not long enough. Now you can see I've let go of the rest, and I'm just holding it right there where all of them joined up when I was rolling them around my fingers. All right, so now what you want to do is with your glue dots, which I should have had prepared and I did not. Out of the way. All right, so I'm still holding my thread. You get the glue dot out first. Okay, it makes life much simpler. Okay, you put your glue dot down where you want the base of your thread circle to go. So I'm just going to squeeze these all together, and I'm going to press them down into the glue dot. Okay, it looks like this. All right, and then you can grab your tee. And where did I put my foam tape? Right here. Very skinny piece of foam tape from the back of my tee. Okay, and I think I want it to be coming out the side of the tee, so I'm going to lay it down like that so that you can't see where your glue dot is. All right, then that's it. If you want to loop, you can just spread it out. You can trim the ends down the way you want them, to the length you want. Just don't do that. All right, and that's the end of your loop. Okay, that's how you create your loop. However, for under the tee for this one, I wanted like a burst. So I just added one step. And once I had my loop done, I just grabbed up all the loops in my scissors and cut. All right, and then I just started pulling them gently together. Okay, and if you need to, you can add some glue dots here. Now that I have both hands, this will be easier. Okay, and I'm just going to put my glue dot right there. I don't want to glue this to the table. Okay, and then as I'm pulling these out, I'm just going to lay them down across my glue dot so they stay where I put them. Okay, this one is not placed the same as the one on my layout, okay, but I just wanted you to have a look at how I created that burst. Also, I used a lot more layers for the burst. Okay, and I want these a bit shorter. So I'm just going to turn the wall. Okay, so that is your burst. Now let me just look at my directions here. Okay, I talked about the triangles. I talked about the flowers and the leaves. I talked about cutting triangles, and I talked about the embellishing thread. All right then, I think my work here is done. I can't think of anything else I need to tell you about this layout. So that is it, our March as you grow layouts. The video tutorials are now finished. So stay tuned for more fun coming up for April with In Full Bloom. Thanks for watching.